Hello, everyone. I'm joined by Aniyun from Shikigami today to talk about everything stage 4 as we go into the top 8 playoffs this weekend. Now, I wanted to start, Aniyun, because you've been on lots of teams this year: Dreamland, Pip, Fries in the Bag, now in Shikigami. How did you end up in Shikigami towards the end of the year here?
Well, I was on Shikigami. It was like my first Overwatch 2 team a while back. So I'm coming back to this team after a long time. I think it helped that I knew like some of the staff already. I knew that this space was well organized and all that. So I think it was my best option, I thought, for stage 4.
Because you joined them a bit for Face It playoffs as well. And then
Hmm.
there's been even more additions since you joined as well in Sunjun, Taejong, Lampant, and Mari as well.
Hmm.
Why did we add those players and what have they brought to the team since coming in?
So as for players like Lampant, Mari, I think they wanted some players who were like very driven and who would be like a long-term commitment. Uh, After the Koreans, it's pretty it's pretty interesting actually how the Koreans came on. Um, well, I had already known Taejong and Sunjin from a while ago, so I think we knew that after stage 2 for Korea, obviously they weren't like playing anywhere, so we knew we could try to get some imports in, and that's how like as Fleta as well. We were looking at Korean coaches. Then I asked the Korean players if they wanted to play, and I think Fleta helped them a bit, but also like they knew me, so decided let's go, fuck it.
And then, yeah, because Fleta's really, I think, the one that maybe has captured most people's attention because most
Yeah.
people maybe expected him to maybe join another team after stage 2 in Korea didn't work out, but maybe Shikigami wasn't the first name on everyone's list when they were thinking where he might go.
Yeah.
So, talk me through it. How do you end up connecting with Fleta here to come in and become a head coach?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I To put it simply, I guess I got connections, a little bit of luck, I guess, with the stage 2. So I'm not sure what other options he had or what he was planning to do, but we reached out to him and he was like down to come coach us. So that was pretty cool. We're lucky, I think.
What's it been like? Because obviously the obvious issue that this brings in, both with Fleta coming in and with 2 Korean players as well, is it introduces a bit of a language barrier between the existing roster and the new players. How has it
Yeah.
been sort of circumventing that?
So for Fleta, I would say it's really hard because he doesn't know any English at all. Like his English is really bad. Usually with most of the coaches who are Korean, they actually know their English is pretty good. But like this time, the player like Taejong and Sunjun know more English than he does, so we do need a translator to talk to him, or like through text, use Google Translate. That's a little bit hard. And obviously in game, we have some issues with communication because like the Korean players, they can understand, I think, but it's still hard.
And what's your experience with Fleta like as a coach so far? Like, what type of coach is he?
Hmm. Well, he's like pretty similar to having a head coach like maybe back on NYXL. That's what it reminded me of, like more
Mm.
structure, which was actually nice for me. But it seemed like I feel like more than talking to us. I mean, he talks to us individually, but it seems like the staff they talk together a lot more and work on things.
You've obviously, this is the second Korean coach you've worked under as well with Changun, obviously
Yeah.
New York as well. Have you noticed a big difference between the way maybe the Korean coaches go about things compared to some of the Western coaches you've had?
They're definitely different. I don't think I've really worked under many Western coaches or any head coaches. Like it doesn't feel like there's that many head coaches in general,
Yeah.
especially in NA. So I don't have much experience with that, but I can say that I think I like I definitely like the way it is. It's better than, I guess it's better than just being player led. It's nice to have like direction.
Someone in charge to make
Yeah,
the calls in
it
terms of
helps. Yeah.
what we're playing and what we're doing where. Yeah. And then I wanted to try and get a bit of an insight into the team as well, because I think a lot of Shikigami have kind of been around in some form for quite a while, but I wanted to get a bit of an inside look on how the sort of internal team structure works. So when you're in game, when you're playing, who's like the biggest talker of a person making all the plans?
I think probably our tanks and then me, which I'm not very comfortable with. I think only up until maybe this team, I've been like more just focused on doing my job and not as much calling. But also with Graveyard and me, and we're like both flex support players, so it's like now I've had to alt track a lot more, and it's like it's very uncomfortable. But I mean, I think it's like a good thing to learn, so I don't really mind it too much.
And then who would you say is the funniest person on the team?
Oh. Honestly, like maybe Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty. Yeah, I remember in the middle of our game versus YFP, he was like, he got 3K or something, and then he saved Sunjin. And he's like, "You okay, ladies?" or something. I was like, it was so funny, like stuff like that. Just bringing good vibes. I like that. And oh yeah, Mari too. They both bring pretty good vibes.
And then on the other end, who's the biggest complainer? Who's always moaning or there's a problem or there's an excuse when something goes wrong?
I would say I'm a big complainer, but I don't know. Maybe me and Graveyard or like Lampent. I don't know.
Yeah. And then I want to get your take a bit on the meta as well, because obviously Juno's come in and every region, everywhere, every team is playing substantial Juno, if not exclusively Juno. You're the Juno player for your team. How have you found her as a new hero and learning her?
She's really fun. She's not super hard because it's just like you have a speed ring, you just speed your tank, you use your missiles, and then I think the hardest thing is right now in this meta is using her ult, because that ult is so important. That's like definitely the hardest thing. There's so many ways you can use it. But I think overall,
I was going to say it's the sort of one it's easy to get it wrong as well.
Yeah.
Then most teams as well have had to sort of go through a decision-making process when Juno came out and Juno Brig came meta in terms of who's playing what role. You've obviously got free supports in play as well. So how did you go about figuring out who's going to be the Juno player, who's going to be the Brig player?
I think, well, at the start, I think we put Graveyard and then we tried me. I tried like different combinations, and then I guess we came to the conclusion that having Graveyard on Brig / Kiri, and then me on Juno it felt the best. So we just went with that.
I wanted to ask you about the Kiriko as well, because it feels like most teams are pretty locked into Brig Juno, as they'll just play that everywhere, maybe a little bit of Ana with Juno in certain matchups or certain maps. But you seem to be one of the teams running the most Kiriko with Juno as well. You talk me a little bit through why you prefer the Kiriko in some situations and what you think it adds to the comp.
Well, I think the most important thing is that for us, Kiriko feels like the best because obviously Graveyard is most comfortable on that character, and it works for us. I think just with the play style. But I think right now it's much harder to play Kiri, so we've just kind of been leaning more into the Brig. I think Kiri's still viable, it just depends on the map. As well as like maybe, I don't know, Zen, other characters. They're starting to become better. It's interesting.
Yeah, there's a few teams who seem to be trying the Zen in all of this if they think they can, like, if the map's big enough for them to get away with it or something. And then overall, in this meta, everyone talks about it being a very big macro meta, lots of big ult fights, lots of complicated fights.
Yeah.
Is this the sort of meta that's good for your team?
I think, yeah, I think this is like I'd say this meta is one of those metas where a team that is not like can really punch up to a better team. It's much easier than like a dive meta, for sure.
And then with that in mind, obviously, you've actually got quite a nice opening fixture in the actual tournament once we get to top 8, because NRG had a bit of a wobbling groups. So instead of maybe running into NRG as you would expect, you've run into Fluffy Aimers as your first game. So how confident do you feel going into that first series?
I'd say we're pretty confident. I think they're definitely beatable. But I'll say that about any other team, really. We just gotta take it one game at a time. But yeah, I think we're confident. We'll do our best.
Are they the sort of a team you end up scrimming quite a lot? Maybe not this week since you got them in the first game, but are they regular scrim opponents?
Yeah, a few times, yeah.
And then, are there any other teams in the tournament that you're maybe particularly keen to face or try and beat or take down?
Well, in our bracket, I guess if we were to win, it'd be winner of TSM Nightmare, theoretically. Yeah. Well, it'd be pretty interesting if TSM we ended up facing them, I guess, because I'm friends with a lot of them there. It'd be funny.
And then as well, thinking about the tournament, obviously, the idea would be you make for big running, you win it all, but how far would you have to get, or how well would you have to perform for you to look back at this tournament and think, oh, that was actually pretty successful. I'm happy with that.
I think our expectation was top 8, at least, with this roster. And now this is more like, it's not like it's an expectation for us. We need to do better than this, but we can. So I think we can at least maybe 5th, 6th. I think we can definitely do. It's possible. We're not like we need to do it. We kind of got our goal, but we can do more.
That's quite a nice place to be. It means you can just sort of take the games as they are, and everything you get is just a sort of bonus from here. Yeah. And then, if I had to ask you who you think the strongest team in the region is right now, who's the favorite to win?
I feel like this is like a trick question, but Toronto.
Just Toronto? Yeah, I mean, that's what most
people have
said.
Yeah. There's no way. I mean, okay. I feel like maybe this meta, I think they're a bit weaker. Like they're not as comfortable with Juno comps. But I think, they'll just take people to dive maps or something, and then it's just like, how do you win, when you're just NA dive, like, just can't.
No, I think a lot of people have said very similar, where it feels like maybe this meta is the most catchable Toronto are, but it also still feels impossible to really against Toronto. Yeah. All right, then. Thank you very much, Aniyun. I appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck to you and the team, of course, for the tournament. We'll see you on the weekend.
Thank you.